Are you still alive, Marty? We good?
I am, John. Welcome back to another week.
It's Tuesday at 7
It
o'clock
is.
p.m. Central Time.
Yeah,
And
Are
I'm
you
going to
getting
do,
excited for Halloween?
uh,
You do anything for Halloween?
yeah, I'm going to eat candy. I'll sit here and like throw candy at kids on the porch and
You
tell them
dress
to,
up like a barista or a coffee roaster? How
maybe I
about
might
the
actually
roaster
dress up like
itself?
I might dress up as like a nurse's aide and wear a mask and keep it simple and just like boo. I don't know.
There you
But
go.
anyway, hey, hi everyone. Welcome to Coffee Tech Talk. This is a show about coffee and technology and everything that's related to that technology, bringing it from seed to cup. Any like piece of machinery that from the time that coffee is born to the time that coffee is drank. This is what that show's about. And so today, this show it's going to be covering some fun stuff. I think that we kind of talked about this week, Marty. We're gonna go into like, what do they call it? Auto brew ratio, and something to do with scales, and something to do with drip trays. And then we're going to talk
Yeah.
about thermostats and some stuff maybe later on. And we have a
Sure.
special guest today.
Excellent.
Yeah, Nick Stolle from La Marzocco and also the Modbar facility in Fort Wayne,
Good people out
Indiana.
there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I got to meet him in June. So
Yeah, if we're hoping to do something fun and entertaining, it's good that we have guests.
Yeah, this is a good one. Nick's a smart cookie. He's a sharp pencil or whatever you want to call it. He's a great trainer,
sharp.
and I got to see him earlier. So anyway, my name is John Ferguson, and I work at the Arbor Day Coffee program. I'm also like a volunteer for the Specialty Coffee U.S. chapter, North Central coordinator. I mean, it kind of goes on. The title's great, but that's this kind of what this program is about, to kind of help just kind of spread the word about specialty coffee and coffee technology. So, but yeah, Marty, who are you? And where are you from and all that stuff? And what's all that stuff behind you? And why do you got all that stuff behind you?
Oh yeah, I get to play with cool stuff. I am Marty Rowe out of Kansas City. We run Service Call and Workbench Coffee Labs. Service Call is a service company. Workbench Coffee Labs is a training facility for coffee techs. You're talking your titles and stuff. I'm a Q grader. Actually, going into Q grading, what I learned out of that is a huge respect for the people that do what we did in the Q grading week.
That was fun. I was there like a couple years ago. I got to get down there again.
If I had to do that every day, I'd have to be a lot better at what I do to do it. The people that do that every day, my hat's off to them. I just recently got my AST certification through SCAA.
Hey, guess who we're going to talk to in about 2 weeks?
Probably Highland Joseph. Is that right?
That's right. And we're going to talk about all this coffee technician guild stuff that you're doing right behind you, and it's a brand new program, right? So we're gonna what's that about?
It's just getting launched. There's been a group of people working very diligently in getting standards which work into curriculum,
and it's been in the work for about 30 years, right? But it's finally done.
Well, if you add up all the experience that the people that are on this team,
right,
it goes way back many years.
So like 35, 40, 45.
Yeah. But we've really gotten serious with the Tech Guild in the last few years.
Oh, that's great. Hey, so I sold some more of my stuff. If you haven't noticed, I no longer have the grab and go cooler next to me. I thought maybe, it's like, I don't really drink that many cans of LaCroix, and I already have a refrigerator, and it doesn't need to be a grab and go. So I'm not that, I get up, I try to run 2 miles every other day. I'm kind of getting old. I used to do 3 every other day, but now I'm doing 2.
So we need what did John sell this week segment?
Well, it's only going to last so long. Actually, what else did I sell? Yeah, the La Marzocco, that was last week.
Okay.
This week it was the grab and go and the under counter cooler, which was a true refrigerator, the milk, one of those milk coolers.
Sure.
And so basically,
no cafe's complete without it.
and I got a pretty good price for it, but my truck broke down and I had to get some new some spring clamps or whatever like that, and basically it was a trade-off. So it was kind of a nice way to kind of fund
Excellent.
all this stuff that I need.
So you got your truck fixed for like $50 then.
Did you make any new guitars this week? I keep on seeing all these like
I finished.
guitars.
We need to talk about coffee, but I did finish a project that I've been working on a while.
I think we're getting like, we have to move on. What machine is this?
That's good.
You want to talk about machines? And I was like, machines is such a weird word to be like, I don't know. But I Googled it and I looked at Wikipedia. I was like, this is a machine. So let's go with it.
You kind of did get me last week a little bit on that loring, but I'll tell you what you did for me.
Yeah, what?
Is I can remember the word loring now. It's imprinted in my head. And so anytime we're talking about it, and now I noticed that this week
and loring's a roaster, right?
Loring is a roaster. It's the Ferrari of roasters, if you would.
I think I would say maybe Tesla, but Ferrari's cool. But like, I think Tesla's a lot more electric, and like, we're not going to. Yeah, I mean,
for me, Tesla means all electric, and they're not. So, but I know what you're heading.
All right, what's this?
Oh, let me change screens. Well, it's a circuit board.
Okay, you don't win, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, it's a circuit board on an espresso machine, and I'm guessing I'm jumping on a don't go anywhere. I think that is the circuit board, communication board for the scales.
Oh my God.
In a La Marzocco.
That was just too easy. I was gonna be like, oh well, maybe this will give it away. There's me wearing my Nebraska shirt because I'm from Nebraska.
How would that give it away?
And well, it says welcome historic West Nebraska neighborhood. Where is this, and why do they call it Nebraska when it's not in Nebraska? So I thought maybe you would know the history of this building behind me. And then I was going to show you this, and I was going to be like, what's that? And you'd be like, oh, well, you know what that is, right? Because you nailed it.
I don't know what that is.
That's a part of the scale you're talking about.
That must be a really up close thing. That's the front view of a Modbar module.
Wow. Yep, this is too easy.
The drawing.
This is your like giveaway week. Like,
hey, this is what I do, John.
Plus we do have like Nick Stolle from Modbar as our guest, so like maybe that's a giveaway. Like,
it wasn't all that long ago, maybe a year ago. Nick and I worked on a burn up that particular board on a machine, and we always get into take care of your equipment discussions.
Hey, we're gonna get there.
That particular board that we were working on, that we ended up finding a lot of little things wrong with the board and the cable and the stuff. It was all because the owner knew that he had a leak on the sight glass, and he knew it was leaking down into the electronics, but he just let it go.
Well, that's what I do. If it's not broke, it'll work for a while. So here's the completion of a scale, the underbelly of a scale. We're going to talk a lot more about this with Nick later on. And there it is. I thought maybe I had to get to this point with you and be like, Marty, do you know what this is yet? And I'd be like, Marty, if you don't know what this is by now, I would be shocked that you didn't know what this is. But a lot of people don't. I've seen them before. I didn't quite understand how they work, and I still don't actually completely know how they work because that's not how far I go. But I think that Nick and you do. We're going to talk about this later, and that's going to be like the theme for Nick when he comes in. But moving on,
excellent. No, that's great.
There's your Modbar. It's a fancy machine. It makes great coffee. What else can I say? There it is in the completion. Look at that. Look at that CAD drawing. Is it CAD? Is that what they call it? CAD?
I think it may be CAD, but it's an artist rendition version of CAD there.
And it just floats in midair too. Or you can put it into a counter.
I recommend putting that in a counter.
All right, we're gonna do some troubleshooting. I don't see any guests or any questions yet, do you? I don't know. I don't see any questions or guests. So
and we encourage everyone out there in internet land, and you're watching us right now. Give us a shout. Reach out.
And so, because we don't have anybody calling in yet, hopefully maybe someone will be brave enough to ask us one single question. But that's okay. I'll give you some questions that I had this week. I'm going to call it troubleshooting with Marty. See how like streamlined we're getting here? And I'm trying to move on, getting a little bit more at pace.
There you
here.
go. Hey.
Not trying to like stretch this out for like ever, right? So troubleshooting with Marty. Okay, when the steam knob is turned off, water comes out of the end of it. This is your basic like, what's going on? What do I need to do here?
Well, there's more than just that wrong. That's screaming to have a new washer and a new cotter pin put in that. But there's 2 O-rings on that shaft down inside there. And La Marzocco actually has done a real good job of putting kits together for that.
I mean, like those kits?
There you go.
There they are.
Good job.
Guess where I got those yesterday? Actually, today in the mail. Direct from you, but
yeah,
from, La Marzocco more or less. Yeah. So I appreciate this setup. This is great. Got 2 of them, and 1 per steam wand.
Steam valve, and that gives you everything you need to make a customer happy.
Look at that new cotter pin in the bottom left-hand corner. Isn't that beautiful?
It is gorgeous.
Gosh, you don't see those like, they don't make them like they used to.
Hey, it's funny, one of the longest internet strings of discussion that I posted was I just posted two pictures of how you bend the ends of those pins.
Right. Okay.
How you pretty it up. Which one do you do? And everybody and their brother commented on it. It was a great discussion.
So tell me, how do you arrange your cotter pin?
Well, you got to look for the goal. The goal is that 1, it stays in there.
Well,
2, it can't turn because in your picture there, another thing that was bothering me is the insignia, the little white dot that has the water droplets on it is missing. And what happens is that pin will turn. It'll get poking one leg out if it's not bent right, and it'll literally poke that insignia out and you lose it, and it's gone.
All right, so when I rebuild this one on Thursday night, this is what I'm doing Thursday night. I'm going out for a couple hour drive. I'm going to rebuild it, and I'm going to do this cotter pin the way you tell me to. Like I usually do this. Like, here's your cotter pin. And then I can't, how do you bend your finger? Like I do this, right? I bend them out. So I kind of like stick it through and then kind of bend, left and right. And some people just bend both of them one way, but I thought that might kind of pop out that white logo a little bit more often. I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That you risk it spinning around. Now I take it a little bit further. You bend them. You say you bend it.
You probably weld it, don't you? You weld that.
I bring the end of each one of those with my needle nose. I bring it all the way into the pin, so that it's just a real nice completed circle there. Now,
I'd like to maybe next week you can take a picture so we can see how you do your cotter. I think this is such coffee geek tech talk right now.
A lot of people.
This is like great information, man. This is golden nuggets right now.
They said that was too much. That if you do it the way I like to do it, it's harder to remove it next time. But I think a cleaner job. I just think it works better.
All right. Well, I got another one for you. This one's a little bigger, literally, because it's a 3 group, not a 2 group, but it's still a La Marzocco. We're just gonna do all La Marzoccos today because that's all I do. Really. I like all the other machines. I tried my best, but I basically just have a nice I feel I like La Marzocco. I don't know if La Marzocco likes me, but I like them. I think they like me.
I gotta pop in and say, triple group head espresso machines give me PTSD as a barista at a very busy coffee bar. That just is PTSD inducing for me.
What would
leave it back to you guys. Quad is the same way.
Well, yes. So we have this 3 group, and here it is. Water used for brewing espresso was cold or lukewarm, but the steam is working fine. So we got 2 boilers. We'll get to the basics here of should you go ahead and go this far to fix it?
Probably not.
Maybe you could get one of those and do that.
Yeah,
I got that at a training facility. It's still there. I didn't take it. By the way, Nick, that is still at your facility. I did not take it, but I was like, that's a nice little voltmeter there, or whatever you want to call it. But let's go back to this. So
Okay.
you know, or actually this, I don't know. That's just a mess. But
I guarantee that's not going to pull hot shots.
so what's the first thing you do here? What would you do when you walk in the door, you're on the phone, you're like, okay, the
Well,
customer.
on any service call, you're going to want to know do you have water, do you have power coming to the machine? So you look outside the machine first. Well, we know that this machine has 2 boilers on it. And it's got a steam boiler and a coffee boiler. If the steam boiler is working fine, everything seems to be fine. That answers that first question, that you have power.
So there's your 2 boilers. They're working just fine. They're outside of the machine though at this point. So the one on the left, the taller one, that's the steam boiler, and the one on the right, or the one that's on the ground there, that's really dirty looking, that's the coffee boiler. So
if you know that it's working right, then you can eliminate that out of your evaluation process. So it makes the machine seem a little simpler to diagnose if you're not diagnosing the whole machine. I'm
sorry, I'm flipping all through I'm just trying to
Sure.
get you seasick there. So
anything else going on there? The other thing that on La Marzocco's and many machines, they have a toggle switch or a rotary switch that has more than one position on it. Sometimes they have off and on, but they'll also have a fill or a run everything without the heat. And so you want to check on that.
Marty, can I stop you right there? Someone this week actually asked me about that. Why does La Marzocco have a 2-step turn? Why do they have the first and then the second step?
I've got a funny story for that.
Because I usually say well, it gives power to the machine, and then the second step is where the heating element's turned on. That's where 20. But why do that? So go for it.
I'll give you the funny story. And this barista was serious, dead serious. That question was asked while I was servicing the equipment, and another barista overhearing that conversation stepped up and they said, 0 is off, 2 is 2 groups, 1 is 1 group.
Hey, I'll go for it. I mean, if it works, I mean, if you want to do that.
No, it's actually, and some of them are actually labeled, instead of 0, 1, 2, it's labeled off, fill, and run.
You know what I did on the last one? I just took it off. It doesn't say anything. It's just click, click, and I'm just click it all the way, and it's on.
Yeah.
But why have that 2-step though? Why even bother?
Well, when you have a machine that is completely empty, and about the only time people are going to have that is when it's brand spanking new, you have to have some way of filling those boilers without applying electricity to the heat elements. Otherwise, you're going to be running a heat element that's not flooded with water, and it's going to burn up.
So it's a fill. It's a fill position to make sure that you're not burning
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got so much to talk about. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on here and why. What's your diagnosis on this?
Well, I see a red light in the center. So it tells me that it's wanting to heat. So I'm going to guess that you either have a burnout heat element, because that red light is in parallel with the heat element. And so when that light is on, it's most of the time it's going to be sending power to the heat element. So it could have a bad heat element, or just prior to you getting there, it could have gotten too hot and tripped a high limit safety switch. And now it's trying to heat, but it can't because of the high limit safety switch.
And so I think that's actually what happened, Marty. And but we're also going to be kind of talking about what does that mean? And I'm trying to lead you to something.
Well, if you determine that high limit safety tripped, then we got to find out why it tripped. Did it actually get too hot, which is most of the time is the case, or sometimes a real loose connection at that safety will generate enough heat to go ahead and pop that. It's a loose connection, and you'll usually, if that's the case, you'll see that on the terminals where they're darkening. I'm going to guess that's, as looking at that's got some age on that machine, so it's not going to have an electronic thermostat control. It's going to have the old style with the micro switch on it. And there you go.
There it is.
Right there. That's it.
That's actually this one, but this is
So
from
I'm
a few groups.
guessing,
So,
I'm guessing that went bad.
okay.
It probably got too hot. The safety tripped on it. And so the state that it rested in after it got too hot was that steam would run, coffee boiler was cold.
We'll see what happens. I'm doing this tomorrow night. So this
Okay,
is
so you're,
so I've got we pretty much, like deduced it down to that yesterday, but I think with the voltmeter, you're going to want to also get there and test the continuity. Is that right? Of the heating element. I learned that.
well, you want to check two things on that heating element, because here's something else that you're going to find. The heating element can burn up, yet still operate. And if a portion of that heat element is shorted to ground, it's still going to heat, but it's going to heat all the time.
Okay.
Because there's one leg to that heat element. We're not in Europe. They kill both of them, but here in the US, there's one leg of hot power going to that heat element all the time. So if somewhere out in the middle of that heat element, inside that boiler, it's shorted to ground, you're heating up half that heat element. And so you'll get that over temperature from it having a shorted out heat element.
I want to throw out a disclaimer here. Before you take off your panels, you should call a technician and not do any of this stuff by yourself. I'm just going to say that. Just call on Marzocco, call Marty, call me, and I'll call Marty. But just watch yourself and don't do anything stupid. And electricity can kill you, and so can water, and especially together, it's a nightmare. So be careful with that. And also on this machine, then we've got a, there's your thermostat smack in the middle of this coffee boiler, right? But it's not like the old school one. It's like a new one. So this has the new PID. You can even see the little reflection of the red lights on over there. But what is, so, we're talking about PID today. I think I'm going to get Nick here in pretty soon, but right before we do that, Marty, what's this PID temperature controller about, and why? And maybe this is actually for, you know what?
Okay.
I'm going to throw Nick into this.
Let's
Marty,
get Nick in here.
I'm going to throw Nick, if you're there, you can see me. I want to say hi. Hello. How's it going?
It's going great.
Hey, so what's going on?
What's up?
You're at the Modbar plant facility training,
Yeah.
the
Headquarters, man.
the headquarters. This is like a mecca for some people like me, like I guess nobody else other than like people like me, but like I think it was just a cool visit.
Now, Nick, you've been sitting back there listening to all this, so throw rocks at us. I know we've been out in left field.
Well, I want to ask one thing, Marty, like,
Yes,
because all of these machines are kind of old, and all this PID is kind of new. Here's all this kit stuff we're talking about. I want to maybe not ask Nick this because he probably knows it, but Marty, which La Marzocco espresso machine, name the model and the year, was the first to come standard with the PID controller?
Well, I don't know that I know that. I'm going to probably, well, are you talking, I'm going to have to clarify this. Are you talking about integrated in its motherboard or an actual outboard PID added to the machine?
Nick, could you clarify that question for Marty?
Absolutely. I believe that John is asking about PID integrated into the standard stock CPU.
That's probably going to be, I don't know what year, but that's going to be GB5.
Give me a good year. Like what year did I get into coffee? What year did I get into coffee?
Marty, I'll say there's a hint in the name of the machine.
2005.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks for the tip.
There it is. Okay, Marty, here's another one, Nick. Now, hold on a second. What does GB stand for? And Nick, you can answer because I don't remember.
Yeah, go.
So GB stands for Giovanna Bambi, the lovely wife of Piero.
Isn't that cool? They name their machines after their family. Like that's like that's classic.
Yeah,
I love that. So I'm going to get back to this PID thing. So Nick, why are they using this back in the day? What is a manual thermostat versus this fancy box and this kit?
Well, I know why we're using them now,
have
is because they stopped making the manual one.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did they stop making them, Nick? Because like
Okay.
I have to go everywhere now and be like, hey, bad news, guys.
Yeah, sorry.
You have to spend a bunch of money to go digital, but you're going to love it because it does this. It does this PID thing, right?
So before I'll get there, I promise. But before I get there, you asked earlier if La Marzocco likes you. Definitively, for the record, La Marzocco likes you very much, John. Marty, I want to say very impressive detective work on troubleshooting the failed coffee heating circuit. And with regards to the thermal resets, we are rolling out dual pole thermal resets on newer machines.
So I actually saw one. I saw one today. You're
cool.
You're absolutely right.
But yeah, PID. Why? Well, okay. No, your initial question was why did we use the mechanical thermostat in the first place?
Or and why can't I get these anymore? Because these are a little bit less expensive. And when I go out there and I see a machine that needs to get a new thermostat, I gotta break the news to them, and it's a pretty hefty investment. But I love it because I talk to them about temperature stability, and I get that. But what happens?
There's a lot of folklore in this industry, and the lore that I've always heard on that was it's a thermostat that failed all the time, and it was so stinking unpopular that La Marzocco was the only one who bought it. So eventually they just discontinued making it.
I see.
If that is or is not true, we found a better way. PID regulates the temperature of the coffee boiler so much better that why do you want that mechanical thermostat in there? If we look at the cool hippie graphic in front of us right now, that big old wavy blue line, that's your mechanical thermostat where the temperature's quite a bit higher than you want sometimes, quite a bit lower than you want sometimes. It's where you want it sometimes, but not as often as we would like. And then that red line is going to be indicative of the PID control, which just does a much better job of staying at the temperature that we want it to be at.
So now, Nick, would you say that the introduction of the PID kind of coincided with it's kind of I don't know, kind of a wave of designers and down to the baristas, they were thriving and really or striving to get what the term was temperature stability in the design and the operation of the equipment. That all happened about the same time. Do you agree with that?
I think so, yeah. I think that there were, lots of kind of homespun means of achieving that temperature stability, prior to PID control on coffee boilers, where, you stand on one foot, you do 3 flushes, you kind of put your hand over this part of the machine and then go for it, and it should be good. And that, I think, coinciding with, more sophisticated CPUs being introduced into machines allowed for that to just kind of be thrown in with it. Like, hey, let's control the coffee boiler with the PID while we're at it.
Well, I think it's great technology, and I'm glad that La Marzocco is obviously using it along with other manufacturers right now. This is kind of like your just standard go-to. This is what it is. And I see that one issue that I had with a rebuild on a 2003 2-group Linea, where I had to take this out, was I have to install this one with this little white goop on over there. Where's it at? I'm always wondering if I'm pointing the right way. Over there. I don't know. But so explain to me how there's different fittings for different ages of machines, right? And sometimes there's just this the piece that kind of screws in there, or you don't even take that screw out, you just leave it and you just put this thermostat in. So could
Nick, I think he's talking about the well.
Yes, the well. I'm sorry, my vocabulary is terrible. The well, the little thing where you stick the thing in, right? Could you explain to me what the differences are there, and how do I install this on let's say an FB73 group from 2003? Other than following the instructions that are on the right there.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, my headphones just cut out. Live TV, everybody. So the well is the recess where the mechanical thermostat previously lived. And if you are retrofitting your machine and yanking that mechanical thermostat out of there. You do this, just that, you extract it. Sometimes people assume that, I can't pull it out, water's going to come all over. Like, no, that's a recess in the boiler. You just pluck it out of there. And then you've got your temperature probe right there with the brass cylinder at the end of it. You're going to slather your thermal paste on that and just pop it right into the recess where the mechanical thermostat lived. Newer machines, when they started making the PID control standard, there's no need to have that recess. So what we have is a temperature probe with a fitting that is happily plunked right into the water.
So for this particular thermostat, it's made for older machines that has that well or that recess in the coffee boiler itself. So, and I took that recess fitting out of my 2003 lawnmower, and because I didn't have the experience to know, just leave it, and and then this one will work in that well. So I got a little confused there, but now I understand. Leave the well, keep that fitting there, and this will just kind of sit nicely into that. So what's the white? What does that do, Marty? What's it do?
That's the stuff it's the gift that keeps on giving. You get one little speck on you, and then you'll find it over on your other arm, and then you'll find it over here on your leg. And
is it dangerous? Can I use it as toothpaste?
The tech industry.
Can I use it as toothpaste, or is that a bad idea?
No, don't eat that. It's Nick could definitely answer this, but it's temperature or BTU, it's temperature transfer paste that allows a very solid, nice thermal connection between your probe and the walls of that well that you're putting in. So it gives a more accurate reading of what your water temperature is.
And Nick, what do you do? What happens if you don't use it?
Well, if you don't use it, it's possible that, if you don't use it on the underside of a solid state relay, it's possible that it could get too hot and fail. If you don't use it on the temperature probe, probably nothing horrible is going to happen, but it's going to be able to do its job a lot better if it has that thermal compound paste on.
Yeah, it definitely does a lot better. We find that spike or that wave that you showed, John, earlier, that wave is larger.
Oh, really? Without
the temperature swing is without the putty.
Well, hey,
you have a wider differential between highs and lows because there's a time lag between reading what's actually there.
I'm just going to flip through some of this. These schematics, you can find them online at La Marzocco, I believe. Is that right? That's where I got it. So it's kind of out there. And I just threw them up here without even asking you guys. But there's on the right side, you see this.
You'll be hearing from our lawyers, John.
Good. I can't wait. Maybe they'll give me some money or something for doing this. This one's free, Nick.
They'll be saying thank you. Our lawyers will be calling to compliment you on your wonderful program.
This one is free. This is what you call common something or other courtesy. It's called common courtesy law.
Now, believe us, we want people to look at the parts manuals. That's
So what's number 9 on this thing?
Many questions answered in there.
So number 9, is that the new style thermostat? Because we have over here at 9 and 10 looks different than this 9 and 10, right? 11,
yeah.
So we got the two.
Is old, that one's new.
All right. Well, there you go. That's a simple.
I'll tell you something else, important bit of clarification on that. Just recently, something cropped up where a gentleman had a look at the new style thermocouple and said, oh, it's a PT1000, which is another style of temperature sensor that we use in other machines. But no, it's not the same. They do the same job. They do it similarly, but they don't communicate the same with the CPU unit. So you got to look at the parts manual and get the correct part number for the application that you're installing.
So again, call a technician. Don't go to Ace Hardware and just pick up a thermostat and stick it in there and then just put a bunch of plumber tape around it, because that's what happens. That's what I heard. Someone said somewhere out in there in Nebraska, they were like, yeah, this guy came in and just tried to fix machine and it was just like full of plumber tape and just kind of started exploding. So I'm like, yeah, La Marzocco parts for a La Marzocco espresso machine is probably the best way to go. And, if you can save $5 and go into Ace Hardware, don't do it. Spend an extra $5, spend an extra $10. That machine is a workhorse. The thing lasts forever, but not if you just pack it up with a bunch of, and I like Ace Hardware, good place to go, but not for La Marzocco. I don't know. Maybe you can get a couple screws there.
Even within the world of La Marzocco parts, certain parts look practically identical. An AC and a DC solenoid coil are going to look practically identical. Those two thermostats look practically identical. Overpressure valves, a 1.8 and a 2.5, they're going to look practically identical. So make sure you got the right ones.
So this thing looks practically identical to a two-group Linea, in my opinion, but way fancier. What is this, Nick?
You're asking me?
I mean, you know what it is.
I do know what it is, yeah. I know all about it. So that's a Modbar Espresso AV tap. And you got to imagine a countertop in between there. But what we're seeing is the bracket on which the scale housing mounts and integrates with what would be the drain tray on the countertop. All
right. And again, here, I don't know, I put these schematics up because I just thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about how scales work. Unless, we want to move on to something else, but this is kind of the meat of the show where I'm kind of like really interested in first, maybe just a high level, it's kind of ironic. Well, it's
hey John,
a high level explanation of how scales work at a very finite level. How about that?
Before we move on, you keep tossing questions my way. I have one for you.
All right. What do you got?
All right. You said PID like it. You've said the word PID 1,000 times. It flowed right off your tongue.
Hold on, I'm going to get on Google here just a second. Hold on.
No, don't get on Google. What does that stand? What's that acronym for?
Please identify direction.
That's a really good guess. It's not right, but it's.
Please intentionally direct.
Well, and here's the deal. I've worked with a lot of really, really good technicians, and so this isn't a showstopper or something you should test someone, and if they don't know the answer to this, then they're not a good technician. It's just not commonly used unless you kind of sort for it and like those sort of things, like I do.
Hey, I just Googled it, and I bet you like some calculus like kid like mine would probably like understand this better than me.
Yeah, what's funny is I can remember this, but I can't remember Loring. What's up with that? Nick, could you answer that from your hip?
Sure. Proportional integral derivative.
What does
I might have slightly miffed that middle one.
Can you give me some sort of equation behind that?
Okay, so the mathematics behind it is something that requires A, someone other than me, and B, a much
someone other than me.
Yeah. That middle one is integer.
Integer.
Which is a number, which means numbers. So proportional means proportioning the numbers, and there's a brain in there that's going to derive what it needs to do to maintain that temperature. So it's a computer that, based on numbers, it proportions out a derivative. Okay, I'm getting pretty deep there. But basically, it learns what to do to keep a constant temperature.
I do know. I mean, I did not know what it meant, but like in the history of it, did this technology start out with? I heard in naval or ship, like using the equipment on, ocean liners and.
I don't know where it started, but I do know that I've seen it in other industries. Heating and air conditioning systems have used these for years and years, long before the coffee world discovered them.
Yeah, there's an application of PID algorithm that we experience quite frequently when we're driving on the interstate, which would be the cruise control on our vehicles.
Yeah.
Well, hey, so we saw the inside of these scales, and for years, I think baristas were talking, and all the research development talking about like, it wouldn't be great to have a scale on the drip tray, and here we go. It happened. This is the schematics. I don't have a. You can Google what it looks like, but this is kind of.
I'll pause you for a second here. But Alan Leibowitz comments. He says, "For what it's worth, I is integral." Yeah.
Yeah, integral. Yeah. Yeah. But integer is kind of a close, similar word, Marty. I mean,
I guess it is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we've got
Thank
these
you, Alan.
scales. Thanks, Alan. Thank you. Please ask us more. But anyway, so So we got these scales now in the drip tray, but also, that we have the Modbar, which is, individual units that can be kind of modified or modified. Is that the idea behind Modbar, Nick, real quick? Behind the name?
Yeah, modular. Mod is modular. I mean, we're some mod dudes who listen to a lot of 60s rock and roll, but it's modular.
Oh, I know. I was like, the first thing I saw when I walked into Modbar was a dude carrying a Flaming Lips album. And I'm like, I'm home. This is great. I mean, seriously, you got a crew there. But so we've got this is a 3-group, 3 scales. And then I heard something about auto brew ratio. And does that apply to all scales and all and then before I ask too many questions, because I always do that, I'm like, what's this? What's that? What's the other? There's something like mass and then something about ratio. There's like 3 different versions you can see on these machines. Could you explain to me first off, Nick and Marty? Nick, I'll let you lead this one. Why have scales in a drip tray?
Well, that's where the coffee falls. If you're working with the basic format of a portafilter and a brew group, you're obviously going to want that on some kind of a drip tray to take care of drips. And by nature of the cup sitting on the thing and the coffee falling into the cup, that's where you want it to be weighed. And
I always think about this, preparing espresso. There's a very basic equation, Marty. A plus B equals C, algebra, I guess. But if you have, like a coffee, 20 grams, right? 20 grams in the basket, it's a 20-gram basket or whatever. And you want to use those 20 grams and you have a time in mind about, you want to do 25, 30 seconds, something like that. I don't know. However, I'm going to get maybe someone saying 25 seconds. No way. But anyway, there's time. You've got the coffee weight, you've got the time, and then you've got the beverage weight. And I think that's where these scales come in, right? They weigh the amount of the final beverage, which we couldn't do before. We always had a timer. We always had a scale off to the side to weigh our coffee. And now we have, grinders using it. But now but
the machine didn't know about it. It didn't know what we were doing out in the world.
So this is finishing up that equation and allowing you to weigh that beverage. But auto brew ratio sounds a little bit more fancy. Marty, what's auto brew ratio, or Nick?
Well, and I'm a fan. I know what it is, but I'm sure Nick can explain it more eloquent than me.
Sure. Well, I don't know how eloquent it'll be, but I can certainly say the words. So yeah, as you said, we couldn't weigh the coffee before. Well, we could, but the machine didn't know we were weighing it, and the machine couldn't help us out, and it couldn't use it as a metric of volumetrics, as when to stop the machine to give us the shot that we want. And then you asked about the mass mode and the brew ratio mode. Yeah, those are the 2 modes that the scales in La Marzocco and Modbar equipment are able to be utilized. Mass mode, I'm simply saying I want 40 grams of espresso, and the machine is giving me 40 grams of espresso. Weight is the metric that it uses. Brew ratio is taking that A plus B equals C that you were talking about, but it's kind of making the time a little bit arbitrary. Time is arbitrary in mass mode too, but what it's doing is giving you a ratio. You're going to be weighing not only your output, but your dry input as well. If you look on your graphic there, you see there's kind of what looks like a little comma or smiley face on those drip trays platforms. That is a little spot where a ridge on the portafilter is able to rest. So the scale platform can hold the portafilter and weigh your dry coffee input. So it's going to weigh that. I'm going to engage. I'm going to press my button, and then it's going to deliver a programmed ratio. That ratio can be whatever I want it to be. It can be 1 to 2. It can be whatever. So your output weight is going to fluctuate because your input weight is most likely going to fluctuate. Grinders,
So I hear these flow rate things. Flow rate is used to be time, right? Like you push a button, it runs for 3 seconds, then you stop it, and the amount of water that goes through there was 3 seconds worth. But that's changed, right?
Or how does seconds? So the time has always kind of been arbitrary. It's always up there, but certainly none of our machines are saying, I'm going to give you 30 seconds worth of dispensing and then I'm going to stop. The outer volumetric control has always been volumetric. It's been rotations of the impeller within a flow meter. So that's referred to as a pulse, which is not a metric of time, but it's a metric of how many times the little impeller spins. It's
Right.
going to spin a lot slower when the flow rate is lesser because of the resistance of, a puck of coffee. It's going to spin a lot faster when A, there is no resistance, or B, towards the end of the shot as the coffee gets extracted out.
Marty, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I'm a fan of the brew ratio because you're always going to have, we're human and machines are machines, and coffee is an organic material. You're never going to pull exactly, if your target's 20 grams, you're never going to dose exactly 20 grams. So if you've got a machine that's going to kind of, we're shooting for that kind of like that temperature stability. In this case, we're shooting for a flavor extraction stability and allow the machine to kind of compensate. So if we dose a little bit short from our grinder, then it's going to dose a little bit short on the water to compensate for that. So you get the same coffee to water ratio all the time.
So a lot of this is really cool information, but I think a lot of people have said, like, I don't have time to figure this out. I am too busy. This is too much technology.
Well, that's what's kind of nice about this. Once it's set up and once you're running, you just use it like you would any machine. You just go and get that line knocked out the door.
And so once you learn how to use this, it is pretty sweet. And Dietrich, I think we got a question here.
Yeah, Sean Hunziker, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, Sean. He says, I sense RFID tags on the portafilters coming soon. Do you guys have a comment about potentially technology incorporated in with portafilters like that?
I can certainly see it happening. I don't have any laying around the shop though.
Can I ask you real quick? Could you explain what an RFID tags on a portafilters coming soon would be? What is that?
Yeah, I guess with that kind of technology, what would a barista be able to get with the portafilter syncing up and communicating with the espresso machine like that?
Well, I know what they do. I don't know what they do with espresso machines. I can imagine, but I know what is done with drip coffee is if you have a different grinder with a different blend, say it's a single origin or a blend, you've got 3 or 4 different grinders that you're choosing from. With an RFID tag on a portafilter, and I'm just thinking this through, as you grind it, it could write information of which blend or which recipe you want to pull from. So let's single origin, we're going to do this ratio with whatever it's set up for.
Yeah.
When you go to the espresso machine, it'll go, oh, you're doing the single origin, and so I'm going to pull the shot like this, pre-programmed based on that. So it can sync up multiple grinders for that.
And so I'm hearing too that Nick, portafilters, the weight of the portafilter themselves have to be pretty precise, because sometimes you get like these old portafilters, you're using them, they all fit, but they're not going to be in sync. One's going to be I forgot how much they weighed, 563 grams, or how much does a portafilter weigh? And how much variation, and if you put it in the wrong one, you're going to have some issues. So with these machines, you get more precise portafilters with it. Is that true?
Yeah, you get just that. You get what we call precision portafilters. So yeah, the weight of the portafilter is certainly going to be a factor of the equation of auto brew ratio.
Can I ask you real quick? Do you know how much that weighs? What's a precision portafilter weigh, Marty? Do you know?
Go ahead, Nick. And what, from my experience, is from one machine to the other, they're different, but they're calibrated within that machine.
Exactly, yeah. So a portafilter is going to weigh about 500 grams. But a precision portafilter just means it's a portafilter that weighs as much as the other portafilters that came with it.
Yep.
So this is all at the expense of being able to have interchangeable portafilters on a 2 or 3 group machine. If you just use the same ones, we're vain here in the Modbar showroom. So we have walnut portafilter handles. So if we're using brew ratio, we got to make sure we keep the same one with the same one, or employ some means to make sure they weigh the exact same amount. So that's what a precision portafilter is.
And so I wanted to get to the next slide, but I kind of wanted one last thing. You've got auto brew ratio, then you have different modes. You said mass mode, and then there's another mode. And why would you toggle back and forth between these three things? That, like, once you get into like these PB lineas, or once you understand how to dial through it, it's kind of fun to calibrate. You got all these, you can like spend more time allowing it to calibrate, and then that's a function. We can't get into all the fun stuff, but I'm wondering, why choose mass mode over auto brew ratio versus, what's the other one? Brew?
Well, okay. So the third option in the scale menu is simply pulses, which is a flow meter, which is essentially turning the scales off and not utilizing them.
So that's the classic linea, no bells and whistles. If you just want to do it old school, you use it in that mode. What is mass mode then? What is that, like is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, mass mode, you plug in the weight of the shot that you want, and it gives it to you.
Right. So you want 30-gram beverage weight, let's say, or 35-gram beverage weight. It's going to allow that much water. It's a volumetric, basically, the AV version of the La Marzoccos. That's
exactly, yeah. Right. So I mean,
volumetric. That's it.
More than 30 grams of water is going to go through the valve, but a lot of that's going to get absorbed in the puck of coffee.
Percentage of it.
But the scale is simply observing weight falling in the cup as it falls in the cup, and when that gets to 30, actually before that gets to 30, it's going to close the valve.
So at that mass mode, you're utilizing the scale, but the other one, you're not really even utilizing the scale in the drip tray. It's like nothing, doesn't even matter, right?
With pulses, correct. Yeah, pulses isn't really a mode of using the scale. It's
but the auto brew ratio is the best way to use this. You get all of the technology out of it, and all you have to do is just put the thing on the scale for a second.
I hear that a lot. I hear that, that's the best. I mean, best is a qualitative assessment,
That's true.
It's subjective.
Talk about it.
I like mass mode quite a bit. I am a barista who came up confirming the weight of my dose most of the time. And now that I don't work in a shop, and when I'm making espresso, I've got the time to verify my input. So I don't need to be, relying on a ratio to, make sure that whether the output is 40 grams, 42 grams, that it's going to have a consistent taste ratio. So I like mass mode. I think mass mode is actually, more precise for my particular desires. But it's all up to the customer. It's somebody said something earlier. I think you said something earlier about, like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to figure that all out. And yeah, brew ratio does have a couple extra steps in it, but we're very much creatures of habit. And I think we're just very used to making coffee a certain way. But we can learn new ways. We can retrain that muscle memory.
And once you do, it's fun. I was watching these videos and I playing around with the Modbar stuff. I was just blown away. I love this stuff. So
important point. I always got to say this. Two things I want to say when we're talking about scales. Number one, it's a delicate, sensitive electronic instrument that is integrated into your drain tray. Be kind to it. Be careful with it. Don't slop it around. Don't pour a bucket of water on it at the end of the night to clean it out. Be careful with it. Number two, as we are creatures of habit in our coffee making ways, I was used to engaging my portafilter, activating my group, and knowing I got like 6-7 seconds to set my cup down. I can go do all kinds of stuff. I can read the paper, I can take a little break, then I got to come back and set my cup because the coffee's going to fall into it. With scales, I got 3 seconds. It's going to, as soon as I activate the group, there's going to be 3 seconds of tare time. And after that 3 seconds, I need to have my cup underneath the portafilter spouts ready to accept that. And I need to get my hands out of there and not be drumming on it, not be repositioning it. You can adjust that tare time if you want 4 or 5 seconds or whatever.
So no hammering, no hammers.
No
hammering. Marty, anything else on that one? This next slide is going to take 10 minutes and then we're up to our hour.
Okay, the only thing I was going to add is the virtue or the advantage of going with mass or weight scale rather than volumetric. And we see this a lot with newbie barista shop owners is if they've got a fresh bag of coffee and they're going strictly volumetric and they set their volumetrics with a fresh bag that's producing a lot of crema, the actual liquid is not a full 2 ounces. And so they'll shut it off and they'll think, oh, I've got a full, if they're shooting for 2 ounces, I've got a full 2 ounces. If it's fairly slow, by the time they get done with that bag, it's not producing the crema that it is. So they're actually doing a lot more liquid to get the same visual level. With the scales, it eliminates that visual, basically lying to you or misreading how much is in your cup.
Espresso lies to you all the time, right? This is why espresso lies to you all the time. Look at this, preventative maintenance. I again ripped this off from the La Marzocco website. They hand this out. They expect you to do all these check the boxes, and like it seems like all this effort for what? Why would you want to keep your espresso machine clean?
Yeah, but look up top, John. It says 12 months. That's you only gonna do that once a year. But
I know.
You got to do the 3, 6, and 9 also.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time. Well, I did. I didn't want to have too many slides to freak out Dietrich who's producing the show. But like, I was gonna like clean and back flush machine. Let's do that live. We could do this whole preventative, like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Marty, what do you do after 20 years with an espresso machine? You rebuild it, you refurbish it. I don't know. I don't throw it away.
Well, it depends on the brand and the design, but we've totally rebuilt down to scorched earth, bring it back up. It's a brand new machine, 20-year-old machines.
What's the oldest one you've ever done?
Ooh,
La Marzocco. I got to say La Marzocco. I'm sorry.
It's probably was a La Marzocco. I mean, and it probably was a Linea, the oldest one we did.
Like a 90s, 95, something like that, 93.
Oh, I think.
I mean, was it 1993 when you did that 1985? You're not that. How long have you been in coffee, Marty? I keep on forgetting about this.
I was born with a coffee cup.
In a La Marzocco.
I haven't been in coffee as much as what a lot of people think or what it seems like. But we got into coffee a little bit sooner. But we went full 100%. Let's make a living. Let's not do anything else but something related to coffee in 2003.
Well, so that's about when I kind of 2005 got into it. But this preventative maintenance stuff, I kind of was like the very first thing I learned in the specialty coffee world is to do this stuff.
This stuff costs, but it pays.
Yeah. So does it help to have people who own machines look at this and understand what a technician wants to do when they come in, or is it something absolutely that they shouldn't do and just leave it to the technician? What do you think, Nick? Or Marty?
Well, when they buy that machine, they should be cognizant of what the life expectancy as far as services is, because if they think they can buy that machine and just drive it until the wheels fall off of it, they're not gonna be happy with that machine after a while.
Hey, Nick.
I was just to say, there's a great analogy in what Marty just said. It's in many cases the price of a car. Treat it like a car. You're not going to wait till your machine is broken down on the side of the road to think about, I should probably get an oil change. Like, no, you do that stuff preventatively. You do the stuff that you know is going to need to be done to keep. And by the way, we take for granted so often that espresso machines are in use 7 days a week, thousands of cycles a day. You're using the thing constantly. You got to get in there and take care of it sometime.
Yeah.
And these are gaskets, and they're like pinholes and water. I mean, it's just like, it's insane, like how like one little piece of calcium or like can kind of jam up the whole machine. Well,
that's another thing. A little bitty problem today, if left alone, can cost you a lot of money later.
Yeah. Look at the Grand Canyon. That was a little bitty crevice at one point. And that's, and again, that speaks to you said it's impressive that the O-ring does that job. Like, well, water's what's impressive. Like, water wants to go back to the earth, man. It's trying to find a way, any way that it can, and it's going to do it. The last keep it in the machine long enough to make some coffee with it.
The last La Marzocco that I had was like a Grand Canyon. You saw that photo, and I learned a lot. And thanks for that, Marty, and everybody else for teaching me. The two of you actually have been the best the best teachers that I've had. And that
on.
says a lot. So thanks,
Shucks.
guys.
Well,
I need to send
thank
you
you,
some
John.
apples from Arbor Day
Thank
or
you, John, very
something.
much.
Yeah. So what's the most important thing on this preventative maintenance checklist? We've got 2 more minutes. Anything else we want to talk about?
They're all very important. I mean, there's a very important safety device on that 12-month PM, the overpressure valve on your steam boiler. So that's certainly a very important one as far as safety, human safety, but they are all equally important for the safety and health of the machine.
I got a question for you here. It says
I
8
agree.
millimeter, 9 millimeter. What's up with that? That box on the second side, it says 8 millimeter H3001 or H3007 or 9 millimeter H3002. Are those the gaskets?
Yeah, those are group gaskets. So
Okay.
you can get group gaskets in different thicknesses. If you got, an old bayonet ring or an old portafilter ear, it's been worn down over time, a thicker gasket is going to seal up a bit sooner. Because when you're engaging that portafilter, you're essentially just taking the ears of your portafilter and ramping them up, cramming them up into that gasket. And if you get a thicker gasket, it's going to do so a little sooner. So it's not going to be sticking.
I was geeking out about this the other day, Nick. I just got that machine and, had sent it to the Grand Island and they set it up. It's all nice and beautiful. And he was like wondering where the position should be. Should it be 90 degrees, 45? And I'm like, well, I put a lot of thought into this when I put this back together again. And I did not quite 90, but it was with, like with the spruce handles, maybe somewhere between 45 to maybe 55 degrees. Is that about right? Where should you put it? Where should they land?
We like for them to be at about 6 o'clock or 90 degrees on a brand new machine. But at the end of the day, the answer to the question of what's the correct portafilter position is the one where it doesn't leak.
Right.
A seal's a seal.
Unless it goes all the way over, right? Because then you can't get the other one.
If it's smacking the machine, that's certainly a bit problematic. But about 6 o'clock is, very pleasing in an ergonomic sense.
Well, I gotta add one thing to it. It's real important.
Okay.
Whatever that is on one group, if you've got a 2 or 3 group, they should be the same. Utilize those heads so that your gasket wears about the same. And here's why. If you've got one gasket that's worn down to where you're, say, at 5 o'clock, but you haven't used the one next to it near as much and is at 7 o'clock, if all things being equal, that one at 5 o'clock will substantially be a slower shot, because with each degree that you turn that handle, you're raising the puck to the screen. If you give the puck less room to expand, it's going to compress more during the extraction. I've seen as much as 15 seconds difference in shots just because of handle position.
Well, hey, Nick, Marty, it's 8 o'clock. We're gonna call it a wrap, I guess. I'm surprised that no one actually called in, or maybe I just did not let them in, but I don't see anybody with the Zoom call. But we didn't get any calls this week. We had too much to talk about anyway. Everybody just lost out on the opportunity to talk with Nick and Marty today. I'm not.
Marty, John, Dietrich, thank you all so much. I had a ton of fun.
Yeah, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Modbar. One last thing before we go.
Yeah.
Something about a virtual training thing. What's going on with that? Everybody got this like blast of emails across the entire coffee world community saying like, Marzocco's doing virtual training. I'm like, I want to do that. But
well, yeah. So what it is a virtual tech consultation. It's one of these. It's a Zoom call. There's only so much you can do as a stand-in for training unless a couple of people are in front of the machine at the same time. But what it is a forum for customers, technicians, cafe operators to schedule a call with one of the 3 technical account reps. So me or my buddies Tim or Alex on the West Coast and East Coast respectively. And we'll set aside a half hour to talk about whatever you want. Tell us what you want to know more about, burning questions you've had, anything at all. We're here. We want to.
Do you have an email for that phone number? And is there anything you want to say? Like, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that? Respond to that email, or do you want to go public with this stuff?
I don't know off the top of my head the email. I mean, certainly info@La Marzocco will get you there.
Okay.
But I do know that there's going to be an Instagram and kind of
and I'm sure you could just call
rejuvenated blast of that coming out very soon.
And you can just call on Marzocco. Just find a 1-800 number, say like, hey, I want to get in touch with a technician. Something about virtual. Nick is virtually doing something online.
Nick said he would talk to me on the computer,
right.
and I want that.
So to wrap it up, Marty, again, how do people get in touch with you? Where do they go to learn more information about who you are and how to get in touch with a technician in KC and the entire world?
If you need service, 816-529-6063. If you're looking for training, get online, Workbench Coffee Labs with an S, workbenchcoffeelabs.com.
And Nick, how do they get in touch with you? If anybody wants to say hi, send you any info, you got anything you want to share, just be like, just find me.
Yeah, you can find me.
It's my bar.
So you can come visit me at the Modbar facility in beautiful Fort Wayne, Indiana. You can email me, nick.s@lamarzocco.com. Be happy to hear from anybody.
All right. And hey, I'm John Ferguson, and I'm here representing Arbor Day Coffee and also the Specialty Coffee Association US chapter, which is kind of newly formed and trying to do new things like this Coffee Tech Talk with famous technicians from all over the Midwest and maybe the world sooner or later. And I'm going to try to get someone from Nicaragua maybe soon or Honduras to talk about some processing machinery, like these tables that sort out density of parchment and whatnot. So that'd be kind of fun one of these days. But you can get in touch with me at this show. Just leave a comment or just call me 402-817-9991 if you are in desperate need of some easy peasy technical assistance, and maybe I can do something for you or at least point you in the right direction, like call Marty or Nick. So that's all I got. I'm good. I'm done. Dietrich,
well, thanks guys.
You got an outro? We're good. We got credits rolling.
See
you guys later. Bye.
Thank you all so much. That was great.
And that
was good.
Just hang out.